In part 4 of the series, we're going to talk about how we maximize our success in a business where we are delivering a business outcome to a business customer. When the goal is maximizing our profitability per customer, so our customer LTV, the next question we need to ask ourselves is, what are the kinds of things that we can do to maximize our customer LTV? And I would suggest that the first thing that we can do is have a look at how we maximize customer retention. Now, as we discussed before, maximizing customer retention is all about keeping customers for a long time. So it's crucially important that we win customers for whom we can deliver this business outcome and who stay with us for a very long lifetime. So actually, the relationship, the foundations for that relationship for a long lifetime are made right at the very beginning of the sales engagement process. So our value proposition here at the very beginning of the process needs to as much engage a customer for whom we can deliver value as actually make it clear to the other customers that we are not the right partner for the kind of value they're looking for. What else can we do to improve our retention rates? Well, just for the sake of a brainstorming scenario, what I'd like you to think about is those kinds of services that we have at home in our personal lives, where we pay on a weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual basis, whatever. So, for example, I've got contracts for music provision, streaming music. We have an arrangement for an internet service provider. We have email services. We have TV services. All of these things are services that we pay for either as consumed or on a monthly basis. And the brainstorm that I'd like you to have is, if you think about your services that you engage, why do you, or why do we, stay with a particular service provider? Speaking for myself, it's often because it works, and therefore I'm too lazy to look around. You might also say that the service is good, that the price is okay, that the vendor stays up to date. So that means the service itself is always current. It's on at a par, at least, with the current technologies or the trends that are out there right now. And I use it. Now, to think in the negative, why might I decide to leave a particular service provider? Why might I leave? I guess, for each of these, it could be the opposite. So, for example, if I'm paying for something that does not work, if I'm paying for something that I don't use, if I'm paying for something where the service is very poor. In fact, one thing that I personally have a real bugbear about is those contract providers or service providers who suddenly hike up the price, so price rises. And of course, there's always that chance that the competitor might knock on my door and tell me about some new features. So I might leave them because I want to get some new features from a competitive provider, or maybe save money. It depends what's driving me at that point in time. Now, when you do this brainstorm and you collect together opinions from a number of different people, there are a couple of things that you observe. Is, first of all, if we just change the language just a little bit from the kind of casual language that we're using when we're thinking about the services that we pay for in our personal lives, actually these are all the exact same reasons that our customers use to tell us why they are that way, that, for example, maybe terminating a contract with us. It's because in the software context, they may have acquired some licenses for certain functionality, and it doesn't deliver what they expected. So for them, that functionality doesn't work. The other one, it might be that they've acquired certain functionality and they just simply don't use it. It might be that there's some outages and some service disruption, and for that reason, that might be the reason for them to terminate a contract. or from a value point of view, the price is just too high for them as a business. And the other one is where they perceive perhaps that we're no longer strategically relevant, and in fact someone else has been offering them different features which is more relevant to them. So very, very similar language. The other observation that I like to make is that seldom does anyone mention the word contract. And my take on that is that the actual contract does not change our decision-making process whether we should stay or leave a certain provider. Where it does have an influence is how we leave. So for example, if there is a very painful penalty clause to leave, we may decide to remain in that service, remain in that contract until a certain point in time when it is less painful to leave. And then on the other side, if the pain is so high, for example, it's a service that we absolutely can't live without, then we may decide to take the pain of a penalty so that we can get out the contract sooner. So the contract itself does not influence our decision to stay or leave. It only influences when. So the reason why I like to emphasize that is because if we think about keeping a customer as purely around renewing a contract, then actually we've already lost touch with the customer, and the chance of losing that customer is very, very, very high. Now, as I said before, the foundation for retention actually is made right here at the very beginning of the process, and having a great value proposition, not only helps you to engage customers for whom you can create value, but also helps you to understand which customers you cannot create value for. There's several different things that you can think about then about how with this package environment we can reduce or minimize or optimize our customer acquisition cost. Anything in the negative that makes our sales process longer is going to be a bad thing, because anything that extends that sales process means that we're going to be using more resource and actually exposing ourselves to more risk of failure through competitive reasons and so on. It's going to cost us a lot more money, and therefore our break even is going to be a lot further back. So what are the kinds of things that we might do, thinking negatively for a minute, that makes deals more complex? Well, one of the things that might happen is we might try to extend and make as big as possible a particular deal, which is very interesting from a sales point of view to make the contract as big as possible. But of course, by doing that, we probably engaging different stakeholders or multiple stakeholders on the side of the customer. So we're extending the number of people we have to sell to. We may even be extending the authority level up into higher levels of authority, which again changes the procurement process from the customer point of view. All of this adding cost and complexity into the sales process, which in this world it will impact negatively on our profit. So if we switch that around for a minute and just think about what are the kinds of things that we can do that are the opposite of making a deal complex or big. And of course that is about how do we make a deal small and simple. Now I say small, but what I really mean there is what is it that we can sell in a fairly straightforward way which the customer will value. So what is the first arrangement, the first service that we can provide a customer, which is very neat, very small, very simple, which will be of value to the customer, where we can prove ourselves and earn the right to provide them with additional services. This approach is called land and expand. The ideal approach is to have a value proposition which you package, and you design your package from the beginning to allow you to go and grow together with the customer in a stepwise way. The best example, I think, then of a high retention is going to be those customers with whom you jointly plan a roadmap of how you're going to create value with them, thus continuously adding value. And on our side, if you like, as a service provider, continuously showing growth. On the customer side, the customer is confirming that they value what you offer and they want to get more value from you, and they're prepared to pay for it.